What's up, y'all? It's your boy Rodimus back with another video. And on today's video, I'm basically just going to give my predictions for the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs are rapidly approaching. They're kicking off this weekend, but we have to get through the NBA play-in tournament. I've already given my feelings about that. We don't need to rehash that. So just to recap the matchups for both the Eastern and Western Conference play-in tournaments, you have the number 7 seed Philadelphia 76ers taking on the number 8 seed Orlando Magic, followed by the 9th seed Charlotte Hornets taking on the 10th seed Miami Heat. And in the Western Conference, you have the 7th seed Phoenix Suns against the Portland Trail Blazers, and the number 9 seed LA Clippers taking on the Golden State Warriors, the 10th seed. Now, I think all four of these matchups are going to be great, but I'm just going to recap my predictions here. I'm going to say Orlando gets the 7th seed, followed by Charlotte with the 8th seed. And in the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns getting the 7th seed over with the LA Clippers. Yes, the LA Clippers getting the 8th seed. Now, will I be shocked? Will I be shocked if the Golden State Warriors find some way to get into the playoffs? No, but I don't think it's going to happen, but we shall see. Just to be clear, I could be wrong about all of this. I want to make that crystal clear. So, with that being said, let's talk about the East for a second. The Detroit Pistons got the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They'll be taking on my pick, the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets have been basically the fun team to watch this year, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So, therefore, I think Detroit, I can see them moving on in 5 games. I think they're going to move on in 5. Detroit with Cade Cunningham and crew, they've been holding it down in the East for pretty much the entire year. So I got Detroit in 5 in that one. Then we have the number 4 seed Cleveland Cavaliers led by Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, and the rest of that crew taking on the Toronto Raptors. Now the Toronto Raptors, they've been low-key making some noise in the East. You know, they haven't been on the level, say, of a Boston or Detroit or somebody like that, or a New York. But I think they can give Cleveland a run for their money. However, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to move on. I got them winning in 6. So I'm going to take the Cavs in 6. Then we got the New York Knicks. There's so much pressure on the New York Knicks, right? There's so much pressure on them to win the championship and all that type of stuff. They're going to be taking on the ascending. That's the one word I can use when talking about the Atlanta Hawks. Yes, they're going to be taking on the Atlanta Hawks, 3 versus 6. Now, I will be stunned. I will be definitely stunned if Atlanta beats New York in the playoffs, which I can kind of see that happening, but I don't think it's going to happen. Therefore, I'm going to take the New York Knicks to win in 7. I think Atlanta's going to push this to 7. This is going to be the most interesting matchup in all of the playoffs, both East and West. So I'm going to take the New York Knicks to win in 7 over the Atlanta Hawks. I think it's going to get pushed to 7. And then the Boston Celtics taking on my pick in the first play-in tournament matchup, the Orlando Magic. Now, the Orlando Magic had a decent season last year. They've kind of fallen off. Boston, I mean, even without JT, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown's been carrying that team along with the rest of that crew. I think Boston's going to sweep them. I'm going to say Boston's going to get a sweep. So they're definitely going to have the brooms out. So I think Boston's going to sweep Orlando. Now let's talk about the Western Conference. OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending NBA champion. They're going to be taking on my pick, the LA Clippers. This should be a good matchup as well. Not taken away from the Clippers. You know, even when they traded James Harden they still found some way to make a little noise. Kawhi Leonard, you know, depending on if he's healthy or not, you know, he can do his thing as well. But I'm going to say with this one, I'm going to go OKC. I'm going to go OKC in 6. I think with SGA, Holmgren, and the rest of that crew, they're going to find a way to still keep their championship hopes intact. And I don't see them losing to the Clippers. The Clippers are definitely going to give them a run for their money. Don't get me wrong. They're definitely going to give them a run for their money. But I got OKC in 6. Followed by LeBron James. Yes, the GOAT in many people's eyes. Not my GOAT, but that's neither here nor there. LeBron James and the LA Lakers taking on the Houston Rockets led by Kevin Durant and crew. I don't know, man. The LA Lakers, you know what? With Luka out, AR out, I don't know. It's gonna be the Lakers. I can see them winning the game in this series. KD, the Houston Rockets and crew, they're healthy. They're looking to make some noise in the playoffs. However, I'm going to say the Rockets in 5. I don't think it's going to be enough unless Luka and Austin Reeves can come back in time, maybe push it to 6. But however, I'm going to go to Houston Rockets in 5. Then we're going to have the Denver Nuggets, the 3 seed in the West, taking on Minnesota, led by Anthony Edwards and the rest of that crew there. This should be a good matchup. This definitely should be a good one. I'm going to say Denver in 6. I think that should be a fun matchup to watch. I'm going to say Denver in 6. Then we have Wemby. Yes, Wemby. And the San Antonio Spurs taking on the number 7 seed in my pick, the Phoenix Suns. I really haven't watched much of the Suns this year. So I'm going to say Victor Wembanyama and the crew, they get it done in 5. You know, he's basically the hands-down defensive player of the year. That man is just unstoppable for being as tall as he is and stuff like that. Phoenix is going to have to find a way to shut him down. I don't think that's going to happen. I can't see it happening. Therefore, I got the San Antonio Spurs moving on in 5. So then we move on to the semifinals. I have Detroit, Cleveland, New York, and Boston in the East, followed by in the West, OKC, Houston, Denver, and San Antonio. Detroit and Cleveland. You know, these are 2 teams that have faced off numerous times throughout the season. Detroit, you know, they're going to have more than just Cade Cunningham to win this series and move on and hopefully to the NBA Finals. Because Detroit's a contender, no doubt about it. Cleveland, we already know what they cover. I'm going to go with Cleveland on this one. And I'm going to say Cleveland in 6. They move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, followed by Boston and New York. I'm sorry. Man, like I said before, it's a lot of pressure on the Knicks, and the Knicks got to come with it. You know, they just can't be dependent on Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson especially. Cat's got to show up. Mikal Bridges got to show up. We know what Boston can do. I'm going to say Boston in 6. So we got our Eastern Conference Finals matchup set, Cleveland and Boston. And then we move on to the West, OKC and Houston. That should be a good matchup. I'm going to say upset here. I'm going to predict upset. Again, let me be clear. Again, I could be totally wrong about all of this. But I'm going to say Houston in 5. I think Houston will be too much for OKC unless healthy. You know, I will not be shocked if OKC wins this series, but I'm going to go the Rockets in this one. Followed by Denver and San Antonio. I think that's going to go to 7. And I'm going to say Antonio with Wembanyama and Fox and the rest of that crew, they're going to find a way to overcome Joker, Jamal Murray, and the Nuggets. I'm going to say San Antonio in 7. So the Eastern Conference Finals are going to have Cleveland and Boston, and in the West, Houston and San Antonio, a big Texas battle there. If you were to ask me who I would take to win that series in the East, I'm going to say the Boston Celtics. I'm going to say Boston maybe in 6, 7 at the max. I'm going to go Boston in 6. I think Cleveland can push them to their limit if need be, but I think Boston will be too much. So I'm going to say Boston moves on to the NBA Finals, followed by Houston and San Antonio. I'm going to say San Antonio wins in 6. So you got our matchups there, Boston and San Antonio. Now, don't get me wrong. Houston in the NBA Finals with KD, that should be something to watch. That would be something to watch if it happens. But the playoffs ain't started yet. So these are just early predictions here. That being said, my NBA Finals predictions, Boston, San Antonio. Man, teams representing their respective conferences. 2 teams that have basically held it down all year. So therefore, I'm going to say San Antonio defeats the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, and they win in 7. They win in 7. Wemby gets his first title in his second or third year in the league. So yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, and I think he's going to win MVP, Finals MVP. But who knows? Again, these are just early predictions. The playoffs are going to kick off this weekend. The play-in tournaments are going to kick off tonight and tomorrow. So for the last time, but we shall see. Y'all give me y'all thoughts on what y'all think will happen in the NBA playoffs. Who do you think will get to the NBA Finals? Who do you think will win the NBA Finals? Y'all let me know. Like, share, subscribe, comment. And that's pretty much all I got for y'all today. My name is Rodimus. This has been my point of view, and I will see you guys next time.